Now available in paperback and Kindle. Vampires stalk the darkness of the Eternal Night. Get your copy of Eternal Night in paperback and Kindle on Amazon.com. A white female school aide in Kenosha, Wisconsin, was arrested for allegedly sexually assaulting two boys who were attending the school she worked at.
We begin here at 5 o'clock with breaking news. A Kenosha County grade school worker trusted with teaching young kids, now accused of sexually assaulting one of them.
Anna Marie Crocker is an educational assistant at Riverview School in Silver Lake. She's now on administrative leave. 12 News' Kendall Keys is live outside the Kenosha County Courthouse. Kendall, court documents reveal some very disturbing allegations involving a current and a former student.
Right, Cyria. The victims in this case are young boys, one 12 at the time of the alleged assault, another 14. Some family members showed up here to intake court today, visibly emotional by what they say happened to their child, calling Crocker pure evil. Ankle chains echoed through a Kenosha County courtroom Friday afternoon.
Next on the calendar is 24 CF 1494.
Also in handcuffs and a mask, Anna Marie Crocker. The Riverview School teacher's aide now charged with first-degree sexual assault, sexual intercourse with a child under age 13, possession of child pornography, and child sexual exploitation.
I can inform the court that this is just the tip of the iceberg.
According to court documents, Crocker forced a 12-year-old boy to have sex with her. The boy told investigators he told her repeatedly to get off of him, but she would not listen. Prosecutors say another 14-year-old boy told a school resource officer he and Crocker had been exchanging sexual chats and pictures via Snapchat and said Crocker sexually assaulted him in a Racine County parking lot. In court Friday, prosecutors said there could be more victims.
Kenosha Sheriff's Department is being flooded with tips. We know of a potential third victim that's also being investigated that was learned of today.
Investigators say the victims involve a current and former student, but that the crimes did not happen on school property.
As the victim's father accurately stated, the defendant is clearly a predator. She's been doing this for a very long time, preying on very young boys who are her own child's age.
According to Crocker's defense attorney, she's claiming innocence.
But she has spent a lifetime working in daycares and schools. Despite these allegations, she adamantly denies the allegations and the inferences put on her character.
Kendall Crocker is still in jail tonight.
Right, the district attorney's office requested $250,000 bail, and in a rare move, the judge doubled that. A court commissioner setting bail at $500,000, and the Kenosha County Sheriff's Office is asking anyone with information in this case to contact them.
Now, in this series of alleged disturbing incidents, 33-year-old school aide Anna Marie Crocker allegedly sexually assaulted two teenage boys during her employment in the Silver Lake School District. And in one alleged incident, she allegedly sexually assaulted a 13-year-old boy when he was 12 years old, when he was over at her home for a sleepover. And as he was asleep in the basement, this is where Anna Marie Crocker allegedly woke him up, allegedly removed his pants, and allegedly forced him to participate in a sex act against his will. And in another incident, this Anna Marie Crocker allegedly was sending a 14-year-old boy inappropriate pictures and exchanging sexual chats with this boy via Snapchat, and also then allegedly sexually assaulted this 14-year-old boy in a parking lot. And in the aftermath of both of these sexual assaults, both teenage boys contacted authorities. The 13-year-old, I believe, contacted law enforcement, and the 14-year-old told a school safety officer what happened to him. And in the aftermath of these reports, police then did their own investigation and soon found that Crocker admitted to, again, receiving a sexual video from the 14-year-old boy and saving it, and also had sent the video to a student at the victim's school, and the police seized and searched her phone and found the video on that phone. And as a result of these reports, Anna Marie Crocker was charged with first-degree child sexual assault, possession of child pornography, and sexual exploitation of a child, and is now being held in the Kenosha County Jail on a $500,000 bail. Now, the Kenosha County Police see this as an isolated incident, but when I take a critical examination of the alleged disturbing behaviors of Anna Marie Crocker, they definitely fit the pattern and profile for feminist indoctrinated women that I talk about in my book, The Woman Crisis. And Anna Marie Crocker's alleged behavior fits a disturbing pattern and trend over the last couple of years among teachers, especially white female teachers, where they violate the boundary between themselves and their students. And as they violate that professional boundary, these women believe that they have the right and justification to pursue an inappropriate relationship, an inappropriate sexual relationship with these underage boys, a relationship that these boys are not mentally or emotionally ready for. And the reason why these women participate in this behavior is because these women, in and of themselves, basically are looking for power as related to having a relationship in general. Now, I go in depth on this in my book, The Woman Crisis, in 2 chapters regarding the sexual promiscuity of the Western woman and how that sexual promiscuity eventually leads to these women starting to explore sexual deviancy. Now, when it comes to most feminist indoctrinated women, basically are in a power struggle with most men, and they're in a power struggle with most men because they don't want to submit to the man at all as related to the relationship, and they don't want to submit in any aspect of the relationship, even in a sexual relationship with an adult man. And because they don't want to submit to a man in any way, shape, or form, what happens with many of these feminist indoctrinated women is that they get no satisfaction from a relationship with an adult man because they don't want to be on equal footing in a relationship with that man as related to having a relationship with that man. Moreover, they don't want to submit to that man in a relationship that the way a woman usually does as related to a relationship in God's order. And since these women don't want to submit to that man and don't want to be a part of sharing in that relationship, what they do to get power is they start going out here and participating in sexual promiscuity with multiple partners. And as they're participating in sexual promiscuity, they wind up having a power struggle with each of the men that they're having a relationship with. And as they have this sexual relationship with this man, they basically start to feel powerless as related to those relationships as they become less and less satisfying to them. And because women are emotional, what happens with a lot of these women is these women basically, they don't feel any sort of emotional or spiritual satisfaction, especially once they have had multiple partners. As they've had these multiple partners, basically they no longer can feel any sort of personal, emotional, mental, or spiritual connection with a man. And since they start feeling no personal, spiritual, or emotional connection with a man, this is what makes many of these women feel very numb and feel numb as related to things. And instead of them looking to connect with a man, they start looking to get power as related to a relationship with someone. And as they look to get power, this is where they start looking at men as not somebody viable for a relationship, but then start looking for these teenage boys and look at these teenage boys basically because they see them as somebody they can get power over. They see the teenage boy as someone they can get power and control over. Power and control they can't have in a relationship with a man, because in a relationship with a man, as God created it, the man is the head, the man is the leader, the man is the one who has the power and has the physical build with the power because he's made to be bigger and stronger than the woman. So the women like this basically, again, because they feel powerless and are not feeling emotionally satisfied as related to their sexual relationship with that man, what they do is start looking for someone they can get the physical power over and be able to get the mental, spiritual, and emotional control over. And that is a teenage boy, because a teenage boy is basically in adolescence. And as he's in adolescence, he has no real understanding about his role as a man in God's order. He has no real understanding of how a sexual relationship is supposed to work, where it's supposed to be a reciprocal relationship where both of you are supposed to connect and bond with each other. And he has no understanding of the act that he's doing and all of the emotional aspects of it. No, this teenage boy, yes, he has a body that is growing and changing, but he doesn't have the mental capacity to understand what he's doing. And these female teachers, especially these white female teachers, basically know that this boy has no understanding of what he's doing, and they basically take advantage of that whole situation, hoping to go out here and be able to manipulate this child through using her body, but manipulating this boy so that she can get control over his body, because he has no understanding of even how his body works. I mean, sex education can only teach you about the physical aspects of sex, and here in America and the West, we're too ashamed to really talk about the mental and spiritual aspects, especially to teenage boys. And what happens to boys as related to these situations is these women basically want to prey on these boys and their whole not understanding anything, and use their own bodies to again control these boys who are curious about sex and sexuality, and use this as a way to abuse these boys who don't understand anything about sex, and abuse these boys and again violate their bodies so because these boys have no real understanding of what they're consenting to, or if they do consent. But in this case, these boys did not consent. Neither one of these boys consented. And again, taking these boys against their will, because these women basically want to again be able to have power and control over these boys and dominate and subjugate these boys the way they believe a man supposedly dominates and subjugates a woman. And that shows how broken the mind of women like this are, because they don't really understand what sex is about, because sex is not an act about power. No, sex is an act where two people are sharing themselves so that they can come together as one under God, one flesh and one mind, body, and soul, coming together to becoming one. And again, it's something people do as they want to share and get closer with each other. But what these teachers are doing is they don't want to share with this boy. No, what they want to do is take away from these boys, take away their self-respect, take away their dignity, take away things from them, and again, take from them and not share anything with them. That's what these women want to do, and again, want to do this because they want that power over a boy's body, because they don't know how to share with a man in an intimate relationship. When it comes to these kinds of women, they don't want to be in a relationship with a man, because a man, again, is in a position where he can have power, and he has choice over his body, and he has power and control and again choice over his body, and he can choose to have a relationship with her and hope to want to share with her. But the whole thing is, these women again don't want to share anything with a man, and that's why they're going after these boys. And this is why these women basically are sexual predators. And when I look at Anna Marie Crocker's behavior, it definitely fits a pattern of antisocial behavior, of looking to prey on these teenage boys, in one incident where she basically had this boy over for a sleepover, which I would find to be quite questionable. And the whole idea of, again, a woman having a sleepover with a preteen boy is something, if I were a parent, I would not sign off on, because I would find that behavior to be quite suspect. Because again, anything that a teacher can do can be done within the hours of the classroom. And when I listened to that statement, again, it really made me it just made my antenna go up as related to something being wrong. It was a definite red flag. And according to reports, again, as this 12-year-old boy was at this sleepover and these other kids were in the basement, this is where Anna Marie Crocker allegedly went downstairs, basically again pulled this boy's pants down, and allegedly sexually violated this boy against his will. And the boy fought off, knowing that this was completely inappropriate and knew that it was sexual abuse. And I thank God that this boy did understand that this was just, again, sexual abuse, plain and simple, because taking that boy against his will, again, was basically grape. As I see it, it basically was this woman trying to grape this boy against his will. And this woman continued to go on later on and looked to pursue another teenage boy, again, sending him inappropriate text messages and sending him having inappropriate Snapchats, and then going into a parking lot showing how she had basically gone beyond breaking her boundaries from her secret world as related to these deviant acts to going out in public, going into the parking lot, and again forcibly touching this boy against his will. Again, these are serious sex crimes, but sadly, many of us here in America, we downplay these serious sex crimes because the mainstream media, again, wants to go out here and elevate many of these white women to be the image of innocence. But it's clear that more and more of these white females who are entering education are becoming these sexual predators, and that should be disturbing to people, because again, these are the women who you're supposed to be putting in front of your children. A woman who is supposed to have gone out here and looked to protect the public trust and protect the safety of children. But instead of looking to protect the safety of children, what's happening is we're seeing more of these especially these white females, going out here and looking to prey on children. And that basically makes me sick to my stomach, makes me sick, because again, when it comes to these women, again, they have been allowed to take charge of some of the most precious people in our society, our children, and they're violating that trust. And it shows us how the culture of feminism has basically messed up a lot of the women who are entering education, this group of women, because this is a disturbing trend that I'm seeing among especially white female teachers, where they are going to out here and exploring, again, out of their sexual promiscuity, going to go into sexual deviancy, because we have to call this what it is. When a grown woman is pursuing a teenage boy, this is sexual deviancy, and it's a sexual deviant act to go out here and believe that you can go out here and have sex with a teenage boy, something that sadly we actually promoted in media back in the 1980s, where we basically romanticized this idea of the adult woman having sexual relations with teenage boys in movies like Summer of 42, movies like My Tutor, and many other movies like American Pie, which promoted the idea of the MILF or the mother that well, I won't even go into that. But again, we have romanticized this idea, and as generations of women who are indoctrinated into feminism have imbibed these movies featuring these older women having sexual relations with underage boys, they believe that these sex acts are perfectly normal and socially acceptable. Moreover, we've had many of these media telling us that this thing is a rite of passage or something that is perfectly fine, but there's nothing fine about a adult woman going out here and participating in pursuing pursuing teenage boys, or in this case having the audacity to believe that she has the right to go out here and sexually abuse and sexually violate teenage boys. These are criminal acts, and again, criminal acts that are designed to basically, again, take away a boy's innocence, because like girls have innocence as related to sex, boys have innocence as related to sex, and again, this is not something a teenage boy should be engaging in, and the same laws that were designed to protect teenage girls from being sexually abused by grown men need to be enforced equally in this case. And that's the great irony here, because a lot of feminists want to go out here and talk about equal rights. Well, a boy has an equal right to his own autonomy over his own body. He has an equal right to be protected from sexual predators, and that's something that's not really happening, because a lot of these women basically get slaps on the wrist due to their white female privilege, and we don't look to punish these women due to our gynocentric society, and that's something that has to change, because the damage that these women do by preying on these boys makes it where they wind up becoming, again, caught up with a whole lot of emotional and mental trauma, because you're introducing these boys to things that they're not mentally or emotionally ready for, and doing damage to these boys' mental and emotional state. That's what people really aren't thinking about regarding cases like this, because it's women like this who are in crisis, who lead to boys growing up to become men in crisis, and becoming the worst kinds of men in crisis, which are the men who participate in sex crimes, because again, the sexual abuse that these boys receive is basically what leads to these boys winding up on a road to themselves becoming sexual abusers. And I just find it interesting that this case is coming out of Kenosha, Wisconsin, the same place that Kyle Rittenhouse came from. Again, supposedly a sweet and, again, innocuous town in America, but a town that basically had a sexual predator among it, that basically was a woman in crisis, that's part of, again, a very disturbing trend among women, where they basically are, again, preying on teenage boys the way that people used to say that men used to prey on teenage girls. But we don't see a call for equal justice among the feminists as related to this type of sexual crime, where this woman, if she did commit these crimes, again, does deserve to be put under the jailhouse, because she was, again, violated the public trust among our children and violated the safety of our children, and abused the power that she was given as related to this job. But we really have to look at this woman and her behavior, and again, see it as part of a very disturbing pattern, in our nation among our women who are in crisis, and leading to the next generation of boys eventually winding up becoming the next generation of men in crisis. Now, if you want to learn more about to identify the behavior of female predators like this, you can pick up my book, The Woman Crisis, on Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle format, and you can learn how to identify this behavior and also be able to identify the traits of this kind of behavior and understand what leads and motivates women to participate in crimes like this. I go in depth on all of this in my book, The Woman Crisis, and you can learn all about how to, again, be able to try to, again, learn why these women are motivated to participate in these crimes and how many don't even see them as crimes at all. And if you want to see me make more videos talking about the whole woman crisis and everything regarding it, you can drop a donation to my Patreon, my PayPal, or my Cash App by clicking the links in the description box. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe. Now available in paperback. From the author of the critically acclaimed book, The Man Crisis, comes The Woman Crisis. Learn why so many women have become lost in their quest to have it all in The Woman Crisis. Get your copy of The Woman Crisis in paperback at Amazon.com and online booksellers today.